I don't think there's words that can describe what this album means to me.
So I'd say this stuff is the most mature music we've ever written.
We spent 4 months in the studio, just song by song, just getting everything down.
But it's really well put together. It's we spent a lot of time focusing on it, and
this album means the world to me. It's seriously my dream for the longest time has been to do something with music that just no one else has done, and I think this album definitely portrays that.
It's the first time in my life I've been a part of a full album and not like a demo or an EP, like a 5-song EP. It's a full-blown album and I've never been a part of it before. And I literally poured my entire heart into writing and being a part of this record. So this album literally means more than I can describe.
This is the very first full-length album I've ever recorded with any band. I've always done like 5-song EPs or something, but this is like the first completely full 11-song full-length I've ever done, and I'm really pumped about it.
What does this album mean to me? This album literally, I don't want to say saved my life for the sake of being dramatic or anything, but this brought me out of a pretty dark spot in my life. I thought music was done for me, and I thought I had to give up entirely on it. And then I got a call saying, "Hey man, we need you to come to the studio tomorrow and record a new song." And I was like, well, I guess I'm back at it again, and ended up writing an amazing record. So I don't know, it means the world to me, really.
to me, the album is just, it's about overcoming. It's about standing your ground. It's about fighting your battles. It's about being victorious. Put a lot of time and effort into it, and I think it turned out really well. This is probably like the biggest project I've ever worked on, so to me, personally, it's got a lot of meaning to it, behind it, a lot of reaching out. I feel like it could help a lot of people. So to me, it's just overcoming, uplifting, kind of in the midst of the chaos. It's a very good way to overcome what you're feeling, overcome what you're dealing with. So that's what it means to me.
The most fulfilling point in the studio was when we were on the last 2 songs of the record. You got Fate and Expectations, and up until this point, every new song that came was like, wow, I like that more than the last one. Wow, I like that one more than the last one. This is my new favorite one. No, this is my new favorite one. And it just kept on going, but by the time it got to Fate and Expectations, I just kind of was like, eh, and I could feel that. And when we started tracking them, you could tell like, oh, these are filler songs. And even Danny and Josh even mentioned, they were like, yeah, we didn't really put the time and effort into these songs that we should have when we were writing. We're trying to get them done. It's part of the concept, all that stuff. And I sat down with them and something clicked. And I was like, look at the songs. Look at the board. These are your 3rd and 4th tracks on the song. We really have to do something to this. And we literally took the best parts of it, kept it, and everything else just scrapped. And had them rewrite everything with being in a better mindset, but not in a way to try and force things, or not trying to do them quickly. It gets done when it gets done. We're going to do it right. And that way, at the end of the day, this song will be incredibly more strong than it was when it first came in. And that just was so fulfilling to me, to be able to, even if it is just one song, even if it is 30 seconds of one song, it really does make a difference, and it really does change the whole impact of a song in general. I think that was really great.
My best moment in the studio was when I went in to do some accent screams. And normally accent screams, high screams, low screams, they'll take a full day to do them right, but I went in and me and Zach busted out like 2.5 songs in about an hour, hour and a half maybe, and He told me it was the most efficient recording session he's ever had. So that made me feel really proud and confident in my abilities.
My best moment in the studio, I'd say, is when we were recording Expectations, and it has like a really eerie kind of guitar part to it, and there's a bass drop that hits, and it just hits so perfectly. Everything about that part it gives me goosebumps and sends chills up my spine. So I think that was my favorite part, when I was like, hey, try putting a bass drop there. And Zach put it there, and shit went all over the walls.
My favorite moment in the studio was, not necessarily a particular, solo or a moment shining through or anything like that, but you came in to record 2 of the last tracks on the album, and they were pretty mediocre. I mean, they had good parts, but they weren't very solid songs, and I was just ready to throw in the towel. Honestly, it was tension. There was a lot of emotions flaring. I was stressed out. I'd been there for like 6 hours, and we just decided we're going to sit here the rest of the time and fix them and make amazing songs out of these. So we sat down, me, Josh, Zach, our producer, and we sat there and collabed, and we made these amazing new pieces, these amazing new songs that I'm really stoked on. And went in with a C- product, and I feel like we came out with an A+, 2 A+ songs, so that's probably my favorite moment, personally.
Definitely when I went in and recorded Marionette, because that was the first song I actually wrote with these guys. I literally learned the song like the night before, went to the studio, wrote, recorded, and heard the entire song in about 2 hours. So I definitely say I went balls out on that, and it turned out great. So I'm very happy with myself and be able to clutch like that.
My best moment in the studio was finishing recording.
Why? Why was that?
It was that milestone. I mean, we spent 4 months in the studio, just song by song, just getting everything down, and for it to finally be over, it was just one step closer to our dream.
For me, there weren't very many frustrating parts while recording The Few the Fallen, because I was in the process of recording an alternative band, which is something that I didn't have very much experience with. I was in the process of recording a couple other local metal bands within the whole full-length tracking process. And a lot of them could not get certain parts down that they really couldn't play what they had written. And I was in this mindset that things were going a lot more smoothly with tracking The Few the Fallen, only because in comparison there weren't really any parts that really got me going. There were a couple of times where we had some difficulty coming up with parts that needed to get rewritten. We spent a lot of time restructuring, rephrasing, that sort of stuff. But as frustrating as it was, at the same time, at the end of the day, it's something that becomes very redeeming and fulfilling in the fact that when it's all said and done, it is something that adds to the record versus taking away from it. It's not like I have to doctor something to make it sound great. There was a lot of pre-production thought that went into the record, and while that pre-production was frustrating, it ended up paying off a lot. I feel like that was very important to the whole process and just made it so much more smooth.
The most frustrating moment, I think, the most frustrating moment in the studio, I think, was also when I was recording Expectations, and I guess I went in not fully energized. I wasn't properly nourished beforehand. I was hungry. I'd just gotten off work, and I was really struggling to record it, and that song took me the longest to record just because I was just having an off day. Wasn't really feeling it, but Zach always has good vibes and stuff, and he, helped me through it, and we ended up getting it done. Got past it.
Nah, just little kinks like that and stuff, working out, just bits in my head that you sounded great, and then when I started to play them out, for some reason my limbs just, kind of went south, we'll say. But, I mean, it ended up all good and everything. I did 4 years of drumline, so it's ingrained in my head, so when I keep messing up, just to keep doing it until it's perfect, so. And that's also part of my issue, is I have to have that part perfect, which is great when you're in the studio because you have a million tries to do that, so.
I'd say probably about midway through the album, I had one night that I went in and I just was having a really rough time tracking, and that was really frustrating, because the more frustrated that I got, the worse I got at tracking, and it just ended up going nowhere. I mean, we did eventually get the song done, but it took a lot longer than it should have, and I knew I was better than that.
I don't really know. I don't know if I have a particular worst moment. I mean, there was days I came in on my A game, and then there was days I spent a half hour on like a solid, just. So I mean, had good days and off days, but I don't know. I kind of enjoyed the whole process. Maybe that's what it'll be, the last day. It's just like I'm excited to release this album, but it's like, I don't know, it's like going home from summer camp. It's like, oh, I'm not really ready to go. So, I mean, in a weird way, that was like, this is it. I don't know, I mean, I'm excited for everyone to hear it, but at the same time, it was like, oh, I'm probably not going to be back here again for a while.
My most frustrating moment in the studio was during the recording process of Fate. I had a certain idea in my head of how I wanted it to go, and when I went in with my idea, Zach, kind of had a better idea, and I didn't want to accept it because I was being really pig-headed, and I don't know, every 5 minutes he would tell me to do something, and it would just make me more angry and more frustrated, to the point where we had to take a break, and I had to leave the vocal booth for a good 10 minutes before I exploded. So
I enjoyed working with A Few the Fallen solely for the fact that they all had, most of the bands I've worked with have a decent amount of experience. They've been in 4 or 5 different bands around that stepping stone sort of thing, but I've never seen a band that's been more determined to get things right, and I have been so glad that when I suggest something, that it isn't like, oh, well, all of our stuff is concrete, all of our stuff is, not malleable, because I've worked with that. It's just like, we want this way. When in reality, the whole purpose of me coming into working with somebody is to give direction, and, the engineering aspect of it is one thing, but it's to also give suggestion and be like, hey, this could be better. And I haven't worked with anybody who's been more receptive to that idea.
No, I loved it. Zach's phenomenal at what he does. I mean, most engineers aren't producers as well, and he's kind of like the whole package in one deal. I think he's only going to get better with time, and I look forward to working with him again.
He's probably one of the most professional producers, especially being, and obviously no offense to Zach, but just as young as he is, he definitely knows what he's doing, and I think he, as much as I think we'll go far, I think he will also go far too, doing what he's doing, just from hearing what we're doing in the album. I've worked with several producers in the past, like, nothing crazy, just around here, but out of all of them, he definitely does, some of the best work I've heard. So he's a very high caliber producer.
I did like working with Zach. I thought he was a really cool guy. He knows what he's doing, that's for sure. I've worked in and out of different bands. I've worked with a bunch of producers, and I feel like he's not just a producer, but as cheesy as it sounds, he's a good friend. He was there to help us push it, to make it better. He was always throwing out suggestions like, oh, this is overdone. You could do this better, or as times I wanted to wring his neck because again, but it just shows that he's not going to sit there and work at a mediocre project. He's going to make sure it's the best quality record that we could possibly make. So yeah, I very much would recommend Third Eye Studios and recommend Zach to anybody who's wanting to record. Thought he was spot on. I mean, I don't really know how else to say it.
I actually liked working with Zach way better than I thought I was going to. When Zach first came to us about recording our album, well, recording anything from us really, I was pretty skeptical, mainly because of the people I worked with before and how they operated. But after having done this entire album with him, it was probably one of the best experiences I've had, especially as a vocalist, because he pushed me to be a better vocalist and a better musician, and pushed me to get things right and to do them literally 110%.
I would describe working with Zach as working with a friend, because I never, when I first went in there, it was kind of, like the new person atmosphere where you're not really sure what to think about the person, but within my third time going up there, I felt like he was a good friend of mine, and it helped a lot to know that he was a really good friend to us and was helping us out a lot and stuff.
Well, tracking was a little bit different. Normally I deal with people coming in doing singles or EPs or whatever, and when that happens I'll book a week to just knock everything out, that sort of thing. But when we started, there wasn't a definitive schedule of this is what's going to get done this time, this is going to get done this time, and because of that, it gave us a lot more time to put a lot more love into each song individually, which I feel is super important.
Going to the studio, we had drums, guitars, bass, vocals, obviously, as any band does. We start out, knock out the drum tracks, knock out the guitar tracks, knock out the vocals, pretty much in that order. Do drums with scratch guitars, go in and redo the scratch guitars with the normal track, mostly rhythms. Fill in with the leads, make sure everything's perfect, on time, clear, crystal. Bass, and then vocals, and then finish up, mix and master, all the extra stuff, reverse snares, bass drops, stuff like that. Just a couple tracks at a time until we had almost finished the whole album. So just like that.
My specific recording process was probably, when I would get in there, we would figure out the tempo of the song and whatnot, and then we would go through all the rhythm parts for the song first, and we would track the rhythm parts, and double track some of them to make them sound a little meatier, and then that would pretty much take up the majority of the time, and then at the end we'd punch in all the lead parts, and that'd be pretty much it. Take a pee break every now and then. It was nice.
Well, I start by giving my good buddy Zach a hug. Get my gear ready and everything like that, set it all up. Usually I'll listen through the song, one or two more times just to kind of have it right there in my head, ready to go, work out the parts as a final kind of okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then usually we just kind of balls out. Zach just says, here you get 4 clicks, you're going, and then sometimes I've done whole songs in one take and just, mess with it after that, but it's usually just a pretty precise process. I mean, I'm not doing a lot of guesswork. The only time I've ever really had to just straight up write a part as I was playing was with Marionette, because I just walked in that day. Other than that, I was, it's pretty straightforward, nothing crazy. Again, the whole drumline thing had practice makes perfect set in my head, so every part I had was nailed down until, it was great, so.
My recording process was a lot lengthier and more in-depth than any other part of the album. Usually every song would take about 3 or 4 days to do just the vocal tracks on. If there was singing in the songs, I would, after having spent a full day phrasing and writing lyrics and putting them in the right spots, I would do all the singing parts first, of the song, and then the next day I would come in, would do all the mids, all the way through the song, and the next day I'd come in and do all the accent vocals on my highs, on my lows, on my blez, whatever you want to say, all the little extra things that would come in and do on the third or fourth day. So it was kind of tiring, but it was definitely worth it.
Danny tracks, Josh tracks, I go in, I write my bass part, I track it, move on. That's pretty much it.
One song that we started tracking early that I still feel is one of the strongest on the record is Marionette. It's got the most aggression in it. It flows really nicely. That's great. But it's still one of the darker songs on the record. It's the only song where Dave says "fuck," or maybe there's another one. I don't know. But then there's also Purpose, and that shows just a completely different side of the band. You got the super heavy stuff for the whole technical metalcore side of things, but then you also have this like pretty melodic ballad sort of song within the record, and it's Purpose, and it's it really shows the versatility of the band as a whole. You also have Expectations and Fate, which were easily the weakest songs in the record, to becoming within the top 5 of the record, overnight essentially, and there's a lot of good ones. It's really hard to pick one.
I don't know what my favorite song is. We spent I think from the very first day until the release point, it's been 6 months recording this album, 6 months in and out of the studio, 6 months writing new material. So, I don't know, that's like asking who my favorite kid is. So, if I had kids, I don't think I could pick one favorite. I don't know, I think my favorite one would probably be Purpose or Marionette. One of the two. Just because they're really structured really well. I don't know, Purpose has that uplifting feel to it. It's different than the rest of the album. The whole album's about, obsession and despair and hate, and then Purpose is like the I see the light kind of song, I guess, the overcoming. So it has a different feel. It's still real heavy and upbeat.
My favorite song on the album, man, this is tough. I think Marionette kind of holds a special place in my heart, but I'm going to have to go with Purpose. It's extremely catchy, and I think you all know what I mean by that once you actually hear it.
My favorite song on the album, I don't really have one specific favorite song. I think Marionette, Fate, Expectations, and Purpose are my 4 top favorites for the album, and if I had to pick one out of those 4 that was my favorite, I'd probably say Expectations, just because it's a completely different style from what it kind of goes outside our norm of writing, and it kind of explores the world of gent a little bit and groove metal that we've never done before, so I think that's really cool. And I love all the musical aspects of it, and how hard it hits and how perfect it sounds and how cohesive the song is.
Ooh, Expectations for sure. I'm not going to go into any detail as to why, but Expectations. These guys know why, but yeah.
Josh actually said that was his favorite too.
I mean, Marionette will have a special place in my heart as well because of, it was the first song I wrote with this band, and then a month later, not even a month later, 2 weeks later, I went on tour with them doing the same thing. So, just that song just kind of has an incredible meaning to me. It was like the beginning of, modern Feed the Fallen, I guess you could say.
My favorite song on the album. That's a really tough one. That's a tough question. I don't want to do the whole cliche, every song on the album is my favorite, but I would say out of my top 3, I wouldn't be able to pick one. My top 3 favorite are probably Marionette, Destroyer, and expectations. All three of them all have their special parts that kind of make me cheese out real hard and get excited. So
I feel like Picking Up the Pieces is something that you could really sort of look at from both a local level and a national level. You've got a local band who is doing something that is of a much higher caliber level in the local scene, where it deserves the recognition of something that is more of a national level band. What's going on is you've got so many bands in the scene that have a lot of drive but aren't really doing anything about it. And I've never met people that are so just driven to get it done.
Every song was really focused on and written to make sure it feels, each song feels just right. And because Danny and I, we kind of would bounce ideas off of each other, and when we were writing these songs, we made sure that every part felt like it belonged where it was. And Zach helped, he helped us a little bit, like when we would bring what we had written into the studio, and he'd kind of input, or give us his input on it, and we'd just make it into an even better song. So I'd say this stuff is the most mature music we've ever written, and I think that this is it for us. I think that this is going to make it.
This is honestly, it's something that I think a lot of you probably won't expect from us, and it covers a lot of different aspects of the genre all in one CD, which I think is really cool. It's a completely different sound. It's still us, but it's a new and improved us, to say the least.
I think just get excited for the album. It's really, not to toot my own horn, but it's really well put together. It's we spent a lot of time focusing on it, and it's a concept record, which is super exciting to me. So I don't know, I just love the story behind it, how it's got the characters and the plot line, and it's an actual story, not just songs after everything else. It all ties in together. I think that's my favorite part about it. So get excited about that. Come out to the show, have a party, have fun. I don't know, enjoy it. Go buy it.
I hope you guys are all excited, as excited as we are about this album. We put so much time and effort into this, and we really hope you guys dig it and enjoy it.
We worked really hard on this album. I've heard a lot of people tell me that they can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to drop it. It's going to be the first full-length album I've ever done in my life. Zach put a lot of his own effort and time into it too, so I'm sure he's just as ready as we are to hear it and have it come out as the finished product and everything. So I'm really excited to see what everything, how it comes together, and excited to see you guys out there and party with us. It's going to be a good time.
Oh, fuck. What was the question again?
Are you guys fucking serious right now?
There's gotta be something good in there.
Here, let me get in character.
In character? You're interviewing as Danny Howard.
No, I gotta get in character. I'm interviewing as Lord Voldemort.
Yeah, I said poop in the middle of an interview. I hope you guys are hearing that. Internet.
The most frustrating moment was having to put up with all of Zach's bull the entire time. No. All his shenanigans. No.
The next day, I would go in. Good. I'm just gonna start that over and turn on my turn it on silent because that was embarrassing.
I hate him. I'm just kidding. He's so hip though.
Pick up your copy on iTunes.
Good. Rocco was looking at his asshole the entire time you were saying that. I wanted to make him stop so bad, but that was your best take, so I couldn't. And now he's licking Lily with his butthole tongue.